check out this J.D. Vance interview.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President,
see
for
what's
sitting
going on
down
here.
today with USA Today. And we'll be discussing the first 200 days of your vice presidency and your plans for the fall. But first, I do want to get your response to some breaking news and current events, including President Donald Trump's attempt to fire Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve's Board of Governors. He says it's over alleged mortgage fraud, but she has not been charged with a crime. Is this about forcing the Fed to cut interest rates?
Well, a couple of things here. So first of all, I don't think anybody doubts that Lisa Cook committed some mortgage fraud. Whether a local authority decides to prosecute or federal authorities prosecute, or of course the president doesn't get involved in those decisions, but she made a mistake and she potentially made a criminal mistake. And the question is, do we want a person who makes a mistake like that to be a person who sits on the Federal Reserve Board, which makes important monetary policy for the entire country? I think that position should be held to the highest possible standard. So whether it's criminal, whether it's intentional or not, we know that this is a person, I think, who doesn't meet the standard that we should expect for the Federal Reserve, which is why the president fired her. And he does have the legal right to fire her. And this goes into a second, I think, a much more fundamental.
You're fired.
Let's just say, for the sake
You're
of argument,
fired.
that Lisa Cook had done absolutely nothing wrong. Isn't it a little preposterous to say that the President of the United States, the elected President of the United States, working, of course, in concert with Congress, doesn't have the ability to make these determinations? What people who are saying the President has no authority here, what they're effectively saying is that 7 economists and lawyers should be able to make an incredibly critical decision for the American people with no democratic input. Like, I thought the people controlled this country, that people made the determinations in this country through their elected representatives, including the President of the United States. I don't think that we allow bureaucrats to sit from on high and make decisions about monetary policy and interest rates without any input from the people that were elected to serve the American people. And I think that's fundamentally what this is about. Who makes the decisions about this country? Is it those the American people elect, or is it unelected bureaucrats? And I feel very strongly that the
especially when in California we don't even know
who
who the fuck made the
redistricting. If the disagree with the president, they of course can throw out the president.
It was made by some
and throw in a
committee
new
that they
president.
said
But you
they're a
can't
part
say
of,
that
but
the
they
American
don't.
people, that the
They
democratic
won't say
decision-making
it was made by a
process
group
has
of
no
seven,
influence over
right,
monetary
7 different
policy.
committees.
That's really, really,
It's
I
just
think,
like, what
an
the fuck are you
anti-democratic
talking about?
principle.
John Bolton, John Brennan, James Comey.
And then they
Letitia
never gave
James,
any
Adam Schiff, they're
names
all
to the
among
leadership
current
of
and
who's
former
heading
officials
those,
the
right?
administration
Those
is now investigating. Does the president
those
have an
companies.
enemies list?
No, not at all. I think the president has a view that we should enforce the law, and if people broke the law, then of course they should face
Fucking
some
government
prosecution for
fuckhead.
doing so. You know, all the people that you named,
bureaucratic
they're
fuck.
at some level of investigation.
Fucking cheat the
but
system.
unlike the Biden Department of Justice, what the President of the United States has told his Department of Justice is, let the facts and the law drive these decisions. If you do these investigations
fucking
and
spit
it's
in their
determined
face.
that nobody broke the law, then of course you don't prosecute anybody. But if you have people who broke the law, if you have people who violated the public trust, if you have people who mishandled critical information in a way that harmed the American people, and they've committed a
They're
violation
putting
of
the
law
country.
in the
Well, it's
process,
not even hurting the
of course you've
American
gotta
people.
prosecute
It's just
people. I think
making you
unless
guys look
prosecute
fucking
people who broke the
foolish.
law, you don't have a real constitutional republic.
It's
So
making
no,
all you
the
fucking
president has been
politicians
willing,
look
frankly, to
retarded
pardon people
because you
from
keep
the other
leaking
side of the
information you're
political
not
aisle.
supposed to.
In my hometown of Cincinnati, PG Sittenfeld was prosecuted by the last Department of
Keep
Justice.
doing
The
shit
president
behind
issued
fucking
that pardon.
America.
He's sort of a famous Democratic
trying to
official.
throw
This is
America under the
not
fucking
about
bus for some
politics.
reason.
This is about the law. And if the president thinks a person has been unfairly prosecuted, he'll pardon that person or commute their sentence. If he thinks a person has violated the law, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, he's going to encourage his Department of Justice to go after that person.
I want to turn now to the National Guard.
Sure.
Are the deployments to cities such as Baltimore and Chicago how the White House plans to fight crime?
You know, it's an interesting question. I think the president has the legal authority to deploy the National Guard to fight crime. And obviously, we're going to do things that are in compliance with the legal processes of our country. But the president said a couple of times in the past couple of days that he really wants this process to be driven by the local authorities here, whether it's the state government or the local mayors. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, look, we don't want to go in where we're unwelcome. There's a political reason, because what might very well happen is that these people, mayors or local governors, stand up and say, we don't want the National Guard, this is a dictatorship, Trump is a fascist, blah, 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 blah. We don't want people to stand up before a press conference and accuse the president of being a fascist, accuse the National Guard of being part of some dictatorial coup, when in private they're actually thanking us for bringing law and order back to these communities. So there's a
Oh my
political
God,
reason
they're
not
trying
do
to
it.
take us
There's
into
also
martial
just a
law with
basic
the
cooperation
National
reason to
Guard.
do it.
Oh
I
my
mean, look,
gosh.
if you look at Chicago, if you look at Baltimore, if you look at Los
No,
Angeles, these
they're
cities
trying
have murder
to- they're
rates that are
trying to
totally
exert
unacceptable in the world's
military
wealthiest country.
force. No.
We should want, whether you're black or white or rich or poor, you should be able to walk down America's city streets in safety and in comfort. You should not, if you're the mom or a dad of a young kid, have to cross the street when you're walking through San Francisco in broad daylight because there's a crazy person screaming at you on the street corner. We should have some basic level of comfort and security.
They
on our
might be
streets.
just
And what the
speaking to
president has said is
some
if these-
people in
these-
their
these local
head, you
mayors and if the
know.
local
They might be,
governors
you know,
want
just
help, he
projecting
is
it
more
out
than willing
loud.
to provide it. I think that he could provide it even without their request.
Well,
But
it doesn't
fundamentally,
happen
the
in
president,
California a
right
lot.
now,
Just
what he
don't-
said is
don't
we want to
worry
work
if-
together with these localities. We want to bring law and order back to American streets. We want to make America's cities safe again, but we want to do it working in concert with local authorities. And that right now is where the president is.
Right, but would they be indefinite? How long?
You're saying if we deploy the National Guard, how long would they stay? Well, I think fundamentally that would be up to the local governors, the local authorities, in concert with the President of the United States to make those determinations. I think you obviously have to make that determination based on the local crime rates, what's happening with murder, what's happening with armed robberies, what's happening with carjackings. I mean, we don't want indefinitely to put National Guardsmen on the streets of our cities. We just
Here
want
it
to make
is,
those
man.
streets more
Crazies.
safe.
Look
And I
at
think once we've
that.
accomplished that goal and created, some local
Look at
foundation
that.
for the local police
And
to
this is
continue
just
to police
California.
those streets successfully.
I think there's a
then I think
Philadelphia
that would
camp.
sort of accomplish the goal, and that's what we would need to do. In D.C. in particular, which is of course the only place where we've done this, I think the president's view is 30 days is probably not enough. If you look at how bad the crime problem has gotten here, how bad the armed robberies have gotten, how bad the carjackings have gotten, I don't think
right
30
here
days is
too.
enough.
Shit.
But
Oh
what we
no.
really want with Washington D.C. is to put it on a sustainable footing.
no.
where
Oh, even the
local
cops are
authorities
there
and local police
too.
could actually bring safety back to the streets of Washington D.C.
Oh,
I think you may have been in the press
no.
conference yesterday. There were a couple of journalists who talked
Anyways.
about being mugged on the streets of Washington D.C. I mean,
I don't think I should have shown you that.
A dear friend of mine who used to live in Washington, his then girlfriend, now they're married, but when they were dating, she came back home crying because she had been mugged at a CVS in the middle of Washington, D.C. This is crazy. We don't have to accept this. I think our message to the American people
No,
is
that's
we don't
just
have to
one
live
part
like
of
this.
it, right,
All
just-
you need is the political
Think of-
leadership
think of,
at the
other parts of
national and the
California
local
like that.
level
Ooh.
that's willing to
There's actually a
go
couple
after
more
the bad
spots
guys and
like
make
that.
American streets safe for Americans.
Or well,
Your
there's more than
critics
one
say
spot,
it's
but
meant
yeah.
to be a distraction.
That's not
from
where you want to
Jeffrey
fuck
Epstein.
around.
Now that you're in power, you say that there is no client list. Why do you think it is that so many of your own supporters don't believe you?
Well, I think what the president has said, first of all, is he's told the Department of Justice to do full transparency here, to release what we have, to release the credible information. And I think you saw Todd Blanche just a couple of days ago actually release the 9-hour transcript of interview that he did with Ghislaine Maxwell. What the president has also said
Yes.
is that we've got a whole host of things that we can focus on. You can both order the Department of Justice
What is this,
to
New
do
York,
full
Times Square?
transparency. You can also ask the Department of Justice to enforce the law. You can also ask the National Guard to make sure that DC's streets are safe. You don't have to do one of these things or the other. So I don't think that it's a
I
distraction.
mean, you could just do
especially when I think
both,
the
you know,
president
both
has ordered
works
the
too.
administration to be more transparent
You know,
about this.
you could just
than
do
any other issue.
both.
Now, yes, I'm certainly aware that there
You
are
know,
folks, even some of our
get
own
the
supporters who
DOJ
have
working
criticized
and
the
then start
response
fucking
of the president,
just
of the Department of
smashing
Justice.
people's face.
But I think if you look at this in full
sorry.
and you give this the proper amount of time, what you're going to find is that the administration has been far more open and transparent about this issue and many others than any other administration. We have to remember this entire thing happened. This entire story blew up during the Biden administration. The Biden administration had 4 years to release this information. They did absolutely nothing. The president has actually directed his Department of Justice to release whatever information that we can and also to go further. I mean, to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell for 9 hours to see if there are any other leads that we can uncover to actually identify some crimes that we can prosecute. But again, as the president has always said, we're going to let the Department of Justice be driven by the facts and the law. We're not going to prosecute people just because other people want us to.
Correct.
We're only gonna
Everyone
prosecute
has
people
to
if they committed a
remember the
crime. That's true in
DOJ is the
Epstein
one
situation.
levying
That's
these
true in a lot of
things.
other issues as well. That's why the president's focused
And you
on
know how slow
credibility
their
here
motherfucking
and the
asses
real
are, right?
evidence.
I wasn't in there then, but I was in there for your most recent
Okay.
meeting with the Ukrainian leader, Vladimir Zelensky.
Yep.
Your moment in February, it was contentious. In
Putting it
retrospect,
mildly.
in retrospect, do you wish that that had went differently? And has anything changed between you since then? Has your opinion changed?
You mean between my relationship with President Zelensky? I mean, look, we've had a number of conversations. They've always been positive conversations. And look, sometimes people disagree. So you ask, would I change anything? I mean, do I wish that we had had a blow up in the Oval Office in public? Not necessarily. But do I think that it actually elucidated some of the real issues of disagreement between the United States side and the Ukrainian side? Yes. And I think that was useful for the American people to see. And I think we'll continue to have these conversations. And look, there are a lot of issues of agreement between the United States and Ukraine. There are occasionally some issues of disagreement between the United States and Ukraine. And what always really bothered me about this relationship was not the Ukrainians as much as it was the American side, specifically.
Yeah, we have
the Democratic
Ukrainian
administration of Joe
refugees
Biden.
too.
I mean,
in our country.
Zelensky would come to Washington.
Nobody's getting
He'd
mad at the
leave
Ukrainian
with $50
refugees,
million,
but everyone's
$50
getting
billion
mad at
or
like the
$100
South
billion
African refugees.
without
right?
any real goal, any real diplomacy, any real sense of what we were going to buy.
The
with that $100
selective
billion.
outrage, yes.
And that was always what
Isn't it
frustrated me.
fucking
Far more than
beautiful?
Zelensky was asking for help from Washington, it was that the Biden administration had no plan for how to end the war, no real credible theory for how giving another $100 billion would solve the problem. And it just felt like this weird money pit where we'd throw money after the problem without any real plan to solve the problem. That always really frustrated me. But look, we've had a number of good conversations, both me and the President of the United States with President Zelensky. We're going to keep on working for peace. And our goal, I think, just to step back a little bit, is very clear. And I think on this issue, we're pretty aligned with President Zelensky, even though we have some disagreements. We, of course, want to protect Ukraine's territorial integrity. We don't want Russia to conquer the entire country. We also want the killing to stop and think the war has reached a point where the Russians aren't really accomplishing anything by continuing to fight. The Ukrainians aren't really accomplishing anything. What's
Well, I
best
mean,
for everybody, including the
Russia
United
might be
States,
accomplishing
would be to stop the
something.
killing and bring this thing to a peaceful
Because he's
settlement.
taking up some
I want
land,
to turn
right?
to the rare mid-decade change to the congressional maps.
Sure.
Have you spoken about this with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, or Missouri's Mike Kehoe, or Ohio's Mike DeWine? And what if the GOP doesn't end up netting any seats at all because of Governor Newsom?
Well, I haven't talked to Governor DeSantis about it, though I think that he's doing a good job and he's doing the right thing in Florida, not just on the redistricting question, but he's been a very effective governor in a whole host of ways. I haven't talked to Mike DeWine recently about the redistricting fight, and you mentioned another governor.
Kehoe of Missouri.
No, I haven't talked to Governor Kehoe either. But look, all these guys, we've talked to officials in all of these places, and I think everybody understands pretty much where the White House is, which there's a fundamental question of fairness. For 10, 20, 30 years, the Democrats have aggressively gerrymandered their states. I mean, look to Massachusetts. Every year in Massachusetts, yes, it's a blue state, but about 1/3 of voters in Massachusetts vote for a Republican congressional candidate. Massachusetts has 0 Republicans. Illinois, by some measures, a very massive state,
that is
yes,
strange
a Democrat
too,
state,
right.
is the most gerrymandered state in the
You
entire
should
country.
have
And in
right. You're
California,
not
where
right.
Governor
All
Newsom
these
is
guys are
threatening to
right,
gerrymander it even
heavily
more,
Democratic.
actually is already one of the worst
But then
gerrymandered
there's still
states in the
right a
country.
portion
California
of
is massive. California
Republican
has
representatives.
millions upon millions
But there's
of
actually
Republican
no
voters every single
right
cycle.
Republican
Something like 40%
political
of Californians
official who's
vote for
representing
Republicans.
those people, and it's just all
18%
Democrats.
of
They don't
California
represent
federal
those guys.
legislators are Republicans. So our basic
It's the
contention
same way with
is that
California.
Democrats have rigged
There's a
the
bunch of
game.
Republicans
They've
in
made it so
California,
that
but
even
they're
when
all
the
being
American
run
people
by
vote for
fucking
Republicans,
right
they don't necessarily
Democrats
get
who
Republican
fucking
congressional
piss
majorities.
poor
And so
job.
we're encouraging states like Indiana, like
do a
Missouri, like
piss poor
Florida
job.
to go in the other direction and to actually counterbalance that Democratic unfairness.
Yeah, all
with
of them are
Republicans playing
Californian,
a little bit
or,
of hardball. We think a lot of Republicans
commies
are
and
going
fucking
to
Democrats.
do what we think is right.
There's
but we do think that
barely
on
any
balance,
Republic-
This is ultimately going to make American elections
California
much more
politician
fair
doing
and much
anything.
more credible to the American voter.
You and the president have now rebranded the One Big Beautiful Bill because as he admitted, Americans
You would think that
just aren't
right? Some
buying
of these
it.
places
How
would
is
at
changing the
least
name
have
gonna
like one or
convince the
two
roughly 10
Republicans.
million Americans
That's
who will
not
be
like
losing health care
fully
as a result
fucking
of this?
Democrat
Well, what the
dominant,
president
but
said
I
yesterday
guess
is one big
that's
beautiful
not how it
bill
works.
is a great name for it when it's a bill, but now it's law.
They like to
and now
offset
we
power.
have to actually explain to the
That's
American
literally
people,
what's
we've got to do
happening.
the job of politics and actually talk to the American
One
people
side's
what's in the
gaining
bill.
too
The
much
reality
power in
is
certain states,
it's
and
the
then
biggest working families tax
right,
cut
other
in a
states have to
generation.
balance it out.
Increases the child tax credit. It eliminates taxes on tips. I knew a lot of folks who depended on tips. When I was
Everyone's
growing up,
trying
a lot
to
of
do
single
this
moms who
balancing
waited
act.
tables who are now going to get a big tax cut because of this legislation. It eliminates taxes on overtimes. I know a lot of people who work those extra 10, those extra 20 hours a week, and our view is that if you're going to work all those extra hours,
they talk a lot
the federal
about
government ought to keep its money
they
out
talk
of your
about
pocket.
tax,
And there's
they
a lot
talked
of
about
other good
Epstein.
pieces of good
they talked
tax
about,
news for the American people that we just got to talk about. We got to make sure that people are aware what's actually in this legislation, because I think when they realize what's in it, they're going to be very gratified that their federal
just
government is
doing
working
rapid fire
for them.
shit.
The most important thing is we're making it easier to build a business, to create a job, to work a job in the United States of America, while simultaneously punishing people for building businesses overseas. We want to invest and save and build things in America and reward people for doing so. But if you're going to build a factory in some foreign country, that's what the tariffs do. The tariffs actually penalize you for building overseas, while the working family's tax cut rewards you for building something here in the United States of America. And I think it's part of a whole economic agenda that finally puts the federal government back on the side of American workers and back on the side of American businesses. So,
are you trying to make Americans
you
like the
asked about
federal
healthcare
government
question.
somehow?
So if you
Yeah,
actually
good
look
luck
at
with
what
that
we've
one.
done on rural healthcare. We inherited a country
You have a hard
where
time
the rural
getting
healthcare system in this
people to
country was
like
completely
politicians
falling
as
apart
is.
because the Biden administration had chronically underinvested.
Don't
in it.
even get me
Thanks to
started on the fucking
working
lobbyist
families
groups
tax bill,
and the
we
NGOs
put
that
billions
fuck
of
shit up.
dollars into rural health care that's going to solidify some of these rural health care systems. And the only people who are going to lose access to federal health care benefits are two groups. Number one, people who refuse to even look for a job. And number two, people who don't have the legal right to be in this country, illegal aliens. I happen to think that if you won't even look for a job and you're in this country illegally, you should not receive federal health care benefits. That is a principled disagreement with our Democratic friends, but it's a disagreement and it's something I think the American people support, and I think they're on our side, again, especially when they learn what's in this legislation that's going to help them out.
As vice president, you're a heartbeat away from the presidency, and your boss is one of the oldest people to ever be sworn into office. You're one of the youngest people to ever be second in line. Are you ready to assume the role of commander-in-chief, and why should Americans trust you to lead the country? Well, I've gotten a lot of good on-the-job training over the last 200 days, but also say that the president is in incredibly good health. He's got incredible energy.
I don't think you want
JD
Vance to do it. He's
States
way too
younger than
methodical.
He is. I think that we find that he actually is the last person who goes to sleep.
He's probably
going to
do the same thing like Trump, literally.
He's the first person who wakes up and the first person making phone calls in the morning. So, yes, things can always happen. Yes, terrible tragedies happen. But I feel very confident the President of the United States is in good shape, is going to serve out the remainder of his term and do great things for the American people. And if, God forbid, there's a terrible tragedy, I can't think of better on-the-job training than what I've gotten over the last 200 days. What does Usha think about you running for president in 2028? I think she thinks what I think, which is let's focus on the job that we have right now. Let's do as good a job as possible. And if that door opens later on, we'll figure it out then. Well, you have young children, and you've talked about the privacy that the Naval Observatory affords you. I mean, is that one of the things on your mind, the public scrutiny that would come along with that? Oh, sure. I mean, with any job, you have to ask yourself, what effect is it going to have on your family? And I think that this job, it does have its challenges for family life, but it also has a lot of upsides and a lot of benefits for our kids. I think they've gotten to see the country through a totally different perspective. They get to meet a lot of new people. They, of course, get a Secret Service detail, which I think puts their father's mind at ease when they go out and see a lot of people, some of whom don't like their dad or don't like what I do. So I think that it's on balance, it's been a great thing for the family. And
yeah, they're even trying to ruin your vacations, apparently.
And Usha and I will keep on doing as good a job as we can at being a mom and a dad. And I think, again, it does have its
Basically,
challenges,
when
but
you're
it's
not on
worked
the
out for
clock, they
kids.
try to fuck
They're
with
happy,
you,
they're
which is
healthy. Our
very odd.
kindergartner, I should say, our 5-year-old became a kindergartner yesterday, had his first day of kindergarten.
I'm all for fucking with
And,
people when they're
yeah,
on the
we
clock
showed
because
up
it's
to
their
to our
job to be
line with a few more
politicians and to
cars
like
than is normal for most families.
calm the people
but on
down
balance,
and like
I think this job has been a
right,
great blessing, both
give people
for me
answers
personally,
and
but
shit
for
like
the
that.
family.
But
And
at the
what
same
I
time,
hope is that
if
it's
you're gonna
been
go
a
after
good
him
thing for the
on his
American people, and I work every
downtime,
day to make sure
like
that it is.
When
literally
you say
when
you're not
he's
measuring the
on
drinks.
Yes.
But there's quite a bit of gold over
like
in the
when he's
Oval
not
Office
working,
these days.
like
Is
when
that
he's
your
not on the
aesthetic?
clock,
Is
yeah, that's a
that-
little fucked up, ain't
How
it?
does that fit in with the hillbilly elegy, J.D. Vance of Ohio?
Well, the president obviously has his very distinctive style, and he's made billions of dollars building beautiful buildings all over the world. What I really like about the Oval Office is that it's brighter. The first time that I ever walked in the Oval Office was January 21st of this year. I was, of course, the new Vice President of the United States. It was an amazing thing. I was overwhelmed by the grandeur of the office, all of the incredible history that had been made. But if I was being honest, it was the middle of winter. The drapes were closed. It was very dark. It had kind of a dark and gloomy feeling. This is the workplace of the leader of the free world. It should be a little brighter. I like what the president has done to it. And it's funny, we have 3 kids. We have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old. Our 8-year-old, it's funny. I think he would probably say his favorite color is blue. Our 3-year-old, her favorite color 100% is red. But our 5-year-old, his favorite color is gold. And whenever he walks into the Oval Office, he's just blown away by it because it does have this bright, lively feel, and I think it's fitting for the place where the leader of the free world comes to work every day.
I know we're out of time. The final question I have to ask you, the biggest news of the last 24 hours, Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift getting engaged. She endorsed your opponent in the last election.
She did?
Do you think that Americans just want celebrities to butt out of politics?
I think by and large, people want politicians to focus on politics and they want celebrities to focus on whatever it is that made them famous, whether it's singing or dancing or acting. But, I'm a romantic. When I see 2 people who are in love getting married, I just wish them the best and I congratulate them. And I hope they have a very long and healthy and happy life together. I will
Yeah, I
say
don't
as a
know why.
football fan,
I don't
as a
know
Cincinnati Bengals
why
fan, I hope that
they
the
were
NFL
asking
does not put
Trump
a thumb
about
on
the
the scale
Taylor
for the
Swift
Kansas
shit.
City Chiefs.
That's
Just
a
because
weird
Travis
fucking
Kelce is now
shit.
getting married
Yeah,
to
I
the
don't know why
most famous
journalists
woman
do
in the
that.
world,
It's
you
so
guys
fucking
can't
weird.
sort of have this. I'm worried they're going to have like a Super
the
Bowl
fuck do you
wedding
care
thing
so
this season. Can't do it. The Kansas City Chiefs have to follow the same rules as everybody else. So if we see the refs being particularly friendly to Kansas City Chiefs players, then I think all football fans should be willing to push back on the NFL and say, look, you guys got to be fair. Just because Travis is getting married to Taylor, you still can't put your thumb on the scale for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Thank you so much for your time,
Of
Mr.
course.
Vice President.
Good
Thank
to see you.
Kansas City Chiefs sucks a bunch of penis. They fucking suck. They're the worst NFL. I'm just kidding. Anyways. There you have it. Kansas. Fuck. Anyways, there you have it. Fucking J.D. Vance. What a normal and appropriate interview. Maybe the media can learn. Anyways. Yeah, it was just an interview, just going over everything. But there you have it. There you have it. If you want to check out USA Today, right, there it is.